This podcast is part of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts, visit red5network.com.
Do you like sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure, and comic books? Then you've come to the right place for your weekly dose of anything and everything geek. So strap in and let's get this show on the road. Welcome to the Science Fictionary Podcast. Welcome back to the Science Fictionary Podcast, everybody. I see we've actually got people in the chat tonight. So sorry about being late. But
the one time.
I know, like, usually you're waiting on us.
Yeah, I know. I know. I was like, oh, I'll cook dinner tonight. Oh, wait, I have a podcast.
Alas.
It happens. It's usually us. So
it is like 90% of the time.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. We're late. We're later. We have to feed our children. Then, of course, there was a day that we just didn't, and they were just hungry.
Yeah. And then instead of leaving to go feed your children, we just stayed on the call after the podcast was already over, talking about how you should go feed your children.
It may or may not be true.
All right, so we're here tonight to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 2. Just right off, what did y'all think about the episode?
I was a big fan.
I'm a huge fan of it. I think it was... I liked last week's episode, but this episode was a huge improvement. Mm-hmm. Any criticism I had with last week was resolved with this.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I mean...
I really liked everything they did. I love the character development we're finally getting for these characters. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of it is... It's not like this big thing, this huge shock. It's kind of what we thought these characters were going to be dealing with. But I like these two guys that kind of need each other, and they're just kind of bitter, and they're taking it out on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating, but in the perfect way, where it's like, just say what you want to say, man. Like, and Bucky kind of did.
Bucky finally does, and it hurt. It kind of hurt Sam, and Sam leaves.
Which good. He was right. Like, I totally see Bucky's point of view, and I see Sam's point of view too. Last week I made the comment that I felt like Sam was a little unlikable. This week I felt that he was just as unlikable, but like in a more human and better character developed way. I think that the red, white, and black storyline, I'm not familiar with that.
I'm actually not either, unless that's...
I've seen people talking about it.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
What it entails.
That could be a reference to the Isaiah Bradley. Maybe like whenever he was Captain America or Super Soldier. In the books, he was actually like they didn't say it in this, but he was Captain America, or like maybe he was like U.S. agent or something. Something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's.
We'll see. I have to look into it. Daniel was supposed to be here tonight, but got stuck at work, and we usually rely on Daniel pretty heavily for
the deep comic book stuff. I like to think I have a pretty good knowledge, but I know more things about like weird stuff, like that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver had a relationship, not like actual comic book storylines. Anyway.
Oh well.
All right, so let's just jump right in, and this one we start off with our new Captain America. Kind of in his old football locker room, reliving his glory days, and kind of having the same moment Steve has before he has to go out on stage at the first USO event. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely just... Yeah, well, I mean, everything about it is just... Even the title of the episode is a reference to that part of
Star
Cap's
Spangled
story.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It made me really like John Walker for a second. Up until the end, I was like, maybe he's not such a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they kind of, but on rewatching it, and Sam really points it out to him at one point when they're talking in the back of the truck, And he says it's always that last line, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like every time it's like, oh, I mean, maybe he's not such a bad guy, and then he sticks his foot in his mouth.
Yeah, it's almost like that last line makes it clear that whatever he said before it is just him BSing to try to get what he wants.
Yeah.
That's what came across to me.
Well, let's just kind of talk through the whole episode about John Walker's character, because they do kind of set it up, and if you're really just taking it at face value the first time through, it kind of makes you go, well, maybe he isn't so bad. But the longer it goes, you realize, and I've heard a lot of other people talk about this, it's he's really the guy that the military would have chosen the first time around to be Captain America.
In fact, I think you said, David, when we were recording the first time, I feel like he's that guy that Tommy Lee Jones was trying to get. You know, he was trying to be like, oh, he's our guy. He follows orders. You know, it's him.
He follows orders, and he's already strong. And like, they didn't make it clear that I'm not sure, because he did put up a fight with the super soldiers and was doing things, but John Walker, he does not have any powers that we know. He's at least claiming that he has not been messed with at all.
Right.
And
we will get into that because, you know, in the comics, his powers do come from the power broker, who is kind of being set up as the person at odds with the Flag Smashers, and presumably where they got their powers. So, you know, I'm starting to wonder if he's not been messed with a little bit already, and if he hasn't, I mean, he almost certainly is, right?
He's got to be.
Is going to, yeah.
And I was really surprised in this episode. We had kind of speculated that maybe he's like just a figurehead, like maybe he's just some guy and he actually can't fight. He's a chicken, but no, he's legit. He is a soldier. He did fight. He didn't just like sit in the background and let other people handle it. Like, he was there. He was trying.
Right.
Which I think was really interesting, because I kind of expected him to go the route of he's just some chicken who really doesn't fill the shoes at all. But
right,
like we said, the whole episode makes you think like maybe he's not so bad until the end, when he's like, stay out of my way.
Yeah, he finally just can't keep it in anymore right there at the end, and really shows his true colors a little more.
Yeah. He's doing a great job. That is doing a great job. It's Kurt Russell's son. I didn't realize that until after we recorded last week, because we were making fun of him. Now I feel kind of bad, because we were like calling him out so goofy. And then I saw afterwards, I'm like, oh, that's the son of Kurt Russell. It's Ego the Living Planet's son. I think his name's Wyatt Russell.
Yeah.
And he's doing a great job.
No, he is. He is doing a good job, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. You know, what do you think about the moment we get where he does show up in the fight? Because we do get to see him, like you said, we do get to see him in action.
Yeah, I thought that was really surprising and really cool. I mean, what I am more interested in at this point in the MCU is not the fight scene itself, right? I could care less. Oh, they're punching dudes? Yeah, I saw that in every other Marvel movie. What I care about is the interactions between the characters and what the fight scenes mean. And this was a great example of like having a meaningful action sequence.
Yeah.
Because it sets up that he can fight. He is there. He followed them. I thought that was really funny when what's his name? Battlestar. Like, okay. I love how Bucky made a comment, because it's like once he heard him like, I'm Battlestar, he's like, okay, stop the car. Because
like,
that's
this
obviously
conversation's over.
Yeah, I almost took it as like he's like, you're supposed to be me, aren't you?
Yeah, he's wearing Bucky's colors.
Exactly, he's wearing Bucky's colors. He's Cap's sidekick. Just a joke. But I think the fight scene led into that, and I like when Battlestar was like, actually, we just tracked Red Wing. And then Sam's like, you tracked my tech? Like, it's government property. Like, what? That makes me so
that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. You know, yes, Cap was kind of the face of the United States, you know, starting in World War II. and all these things, but he was never the government stooge.
Yeah.
No.
Cap would always do what is right, no matter who he had to offend to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Cap. Some of the best lines from Cap. I don't recall if this has ever been said in the movies. It probably has something along these lines, but he's Captain America, and he represents like the people of America, not the
Right.
government. The America
Mm-hmm.
to him is not whoever is sitting in the chair. It's the
Mm-hmm.
people. He's a patriot for them. Not that doesn't mean he's going to follow the government's orders. And I mean, we saw
Right.
it. He went off and
Yeah.
was on the run for 2 years. Sam even mentioned that. I love the callbacks to continuity. I love the callback to the grenade. It's like, have you ever jumped on a grenade? And he's like 4 times actually. So think with my helmet, like, okay, he instantly missed the
Right.
point.
Exactly.
Like, he's like, actually, it's a thing with my helmet. No, the point is that Steve did it. He didn't have a helmet on that like made him like specially protected from it or whatever.
No, Steve did it fully expecting to die when he did it.
Yeah. Like John Walker misses the point, and it's like he's almost there. He's just so close to being like a decent Captain America, a decent guy.
I feel like he's always like just misses the point though. I feel, there are several times where you're like, oh, I think he might be getting this. And then you realize he's just off enough.
Well, and I think we haven't seen exactly how far he may be willing to go yet.
Yeah.
Because
But just from what they've shown us so far.
right, because his buddy does tell him, this is who, this is the job, and no more just punching your way out of trouble.
Right.
Like, well, I mean, that's what soldiers do, fight your way out. But I think that's a reference to something else. I think that it's I think the guy's going to end up having a temper.
I'm worried about him. I think I get sort of like these Punisher vibes from him, in the sense that like I don't know if y'all saw the Punisher Netflix show, but there were a lot of scenes in that show of Frank whenever he was in the Middle East fighting, and like I almost get the feeling that John was that. I mean, he earned like 3 Medal of Honors. Like he must have done some stuff, and so he was over there. He's been doing it for a while. This guy's probably been through some crap.
Yeah.
And he's probably just on the verge of breaking. And I really think that like we're gonna get some kind of scene where like we see him. I don't know. He has a prisoner, right? He has someone captured. They sit down, and he's just gonna like snap their neck or something. Like it's gonna be something like that.
Yeah. I feel like we've just kind of seen him. We haven't seen him just cross the line yet. And you're right about that 5 o'clock shadow,
Yep.
And I wonder where he's going to end up by the end, because so I was talking to a friend today, and she was like, I mean, maybe he'll just be Captain America and he'll like lead the Avengers. And I'm like, no.
The Avengers followed Steve because he earned it. The Avengers aren't following this guy.
They don't just follow the person who has the shield. Like if Sam had the shield, they'd follow Sam because Sam earned it, and earned their respect. But it's like, could John Walker could this be it? Could he become like a villain? Could he just be like a presence that's always kind of there? I really have no earthly clue where they're going to go with this show, because they've set up so much stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's all tying together pretty well.
I want to see John Walker have a conversation with the ultimate in-universe Captain America fanboy, Scott Lang.
Oh, Scott Lang. I thought you were going to say Coulson.
Scott Lang. That's funny.
I don't imagine Scott Lang would be real big on the new Cap.
No, he wouldn't.
Probably not.
That'd be great. That would be funny.
Cap. We were watching.
Cap.
We've been doing lots of like housework, tearing up floors and stuff. So I've just had Marvel movies going in the background because, like, it's not too distracting. Of course, my kids come in when they're supposed to be doing school and watch them, but they were watching Endgame the other day. Yes, Captain America.
Great. And like even in Civil War, it's like, I believe this belongs to you, Captain America.
Yes.
And then the best part of Ant-Man and the Wasp is when he's with Evangeline Lilly, and he's like, yeah, we call him Cap. It's like a thing, he's Cap.
Yeah.
All right, so this comment here that Roe left us, I really this is kind of leads to where I wanted to some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. You know, the Flag Smashers and the Power Broker and these other groups that have kind of taken up positions of power after the snap. You know, we have comments about the global Global Repatriation Council. You know, that's kind of in charge of, you know, bringing all these people back into society and that have suddenly come back to life. And of course, the Flag Smashers are mad because, well, the council cares more about the people that have come back than the people that were here the whole time. And
well, that's like kind of the whole point of the council existing, though.
it is. But at the same time, like, I mean, how bad was it really?
It had to have been like apocalyptic, at least for that first year.
Yeah.
Both times, like whenever all the people disappeared, and then when they came back. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, I get the feeling. I really like the Flag Smashers so far. And it's a stupid name, but they commented on it. It's like lampshade, and they comment on how bad the name is. So now it's okay. I really like the idea of them. It makes kind of perfect sense what they're getting at. Like, it took them, and from their mind, they survived the apocalypse, and then it took them 5 years to build something up that they were finally happy with, and in their mind, the world was a better place for it at this point. At least the best it could be. And then these people come back and just, it's supposed to all just go back to how it was 5 years ago, like nothing ever happened. Like, stuff changed. Nations must have fallen, risen. Like, think about like small, if you're a small country and half your population's gone, like, sure, America as a country will like survive, right? There's still enough people to call a country, but if you're like a small country somewhere like Asia or the Middle East or whatever, and a lot of countries, and it looks like a lot of those countries are already kind of in turmoil, the ones that the Flag Smashers are dealing with, the whole thing must have fallen just completely into ruins.
Well, you got to think you're
crazy.
Yeah, you got to think your typical government wouldn't have, your small third world governments wouldn't have survived.
No,
something like this.
Half of their government officials disappearing.
Yeah.
No, half of their enforcers, half of everything, not just half of the economy,
half of the infrastructure.
I mean, geez, we saw how much of a dive the economy took whenever everything shut down for a couple of months. Can you imagine if half of the people were just gone, what that would do to the world economy?
Yeah.
It must have been apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And that's from their mind. It took them 5 years to fix it.
Yep.
And they were happy with what they got, and now they want to go back to that. And their idea, and I'm guessing like Nations Without Borders, I'm assuming during that 5 years, the idea of borders didn't really mean much anymore. Because
presumably,
I'm assuming, unless you're like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of countries that were like, nah, we're still America. But like, I'm sure there were a lot of countries that were like, there's so few of us left that we gotta band together to make anything work.
Yeah.
And now we're supposed to just go away from that. And in their mind, a world, it's almost like ideally if we were all united, sure, I guess that would be the most ideal situation. If that in a perfect world could work. We were all just one people.
Right.
And they want to achieve that, which it's like, even Sam points it out. Sam's like, what did Sam say? I don't remember what Sam said exactly, but he's like, maybe they're just trying to help.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that's, and people throughout history have sought to achieve something along the lines of what they're wanting to achieve. And with the best of intentions. The problem is that humans are flawed and tend to get in the way of that perfect world dream.
Yeah. And also there's a lot of things that you have to do to reach those ends. The ends do not always justify the means. And I
rarely
do they exactly.
Rarely.
And, I mean, the Flag Smashers have shown they're not afraid to kill cops or whatever to get what they want. They might not be bad people, but they're dangerous people.
Or they might be Hydra. I'm not giving up on that.
Oh, they might be Hydra.
I don't know if they're Hydra or if the Power Broker is Hydra, but I am firmly convinced at this point that Hydra is wrapped up in this in some way, shape, or form.
They've got to be. It's always freaking Hydra, which I love.
Well, and we were watching First Avenger the other day, and of course Red Skull going on and on about his grand vision, and one of the things he says is
a world without flags.
A world without flags.
That's a good. Yeah, I mean, like, let's look at Nazi Germany. I mean, they wanted to take over the world, and the Flag Smashers just might be like. I'm betting what it is that a lot of the higher ups are Hydra. I don't think the whole thing is Hydra, and I'm sure there's a lot. It's like Shield. Most of the members actually aren't members of Hydra.
Right.
But key positions of the organization are Hydra members, and this is all to push that goal. And I love that idea. I love it. In Marvel Comics, there's like this kind of joke that Skrulls always screw everything up. It's like I think Steve. There's a line that Steve Rogers once said. He's like, Skrulls. It's always freaking Skrulls. And I'd love if Hydra was that for the MCU. Like if Bucky's just like, it's always Hydra. Of course, of course. I would also love it if it turns out at the end something like I would love something very cheesy. With along the lines of Zemo was responsible for the whole thing, like he's just a maniacal villain behind the whole thing. Let's see him in this next episode or a couple times, and he's just like an informant, but we don't think he's like the leader. And then at the end, it turns out that he orchestrated the whole thing. Like somehow he made the whole thing happen.
I assumed he was the power broker. Like, and when they first started talking about him, I figured, oh well, it's going to be Zemo, and then I was like, oh, that's right, he's still in jail.
I think the power broker is probably. Maybe a stooge of his.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I kind of forgotten that he was in jail at this point. So, but it'll be interesting to see if where he's going to come down on all this.
But my whole thing is, I never thought that much about the 5-year period of the blip, and I really kind of think that they're doing a disservice by not. I don't know what it is because it needs to be a character that's not in New York or somewhere like that. We need to see in some of these other parts of the world what happened, like just how, like what was it like to exist during the blip in some of these places, and
that would be a great premise for a sequel to Black Widow.
Ooh,
yeah.
What was going on? Because she kind of like. Led the event, like it weren't really the Avengers at that point, but she sort of took charge of like the group that kind of kept things together.
Right.
I think it'd be a great premise. Because it's a prequel. She's dead, so let's have a Black Widow 2, and let's set it during that time. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The more I think about that period of time, the more I'm like, and the thing is, we keep referencing back to like all the chaos that it's created, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon. I mean, I think that's pretty critical to what the MCU is going forward. So I really want to see something set in that 5-year gap.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get like an apocalyptic movie, like a zombie apocalypse movie. Like everyone's going crazy in the streets, and how Black Widow or Hawkeye or even Cap, like how they managed to keep things together.
Hawkeye doesn't really keep things together, does he? Much as
No.
he kind of loses it.
Right, he doesn't keep things together. I'd still love to see what he did in that 5 years, because that sounded really freaking cool. Just like a samurai movie, but it's Hawkeye traveling the world. That would be a great series or movie or something like that. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get it, but now I can't get that idea out of my head, and I want it so badly.
All right, so let's move on from there real quick and talk about this new character that we didn't know existed, but who's been around for a good long while, in Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah, that is not how I expected that scene to go. Whenever Bucky said, because I had been spoiled, I knew that he was in this episode, but all I knew was that Isaiah Bradley was in this episode. So when Bucky mentions like, let's go see this person, I was like, okay, they're going to be like buddy, and they're going to, have a really wise talk with Falcon about about being a black man and standing up for, like something like that. No, not at all. I thought it was really cool. Bit of history, bit of MCU history that we got there, because we really have not seen anything between the years of like the end of World War II and the 1990s. We have no idea what went on, except for Agent Carter. Actually, we had Agent Carter, but other than that, we had no idea what was going on in that time.
Right.
And a lot was going on. The establishment of Shield, and there were like, I think, what did he say? He fought in Korea, is where Isaiah Bradley fought. Yeah, lots of wars and stuff like that. So I thought that was a really cool inclusion of to have him show up, and it was a pretty emotional scene. Like, wow, that's pretty messed up.
It was, and I mean, of course, it's powerful because it's reflective of history, and it's things like the Tuskegee experiments and these horrible things that were done to black soldiers in particular. And I mean, and then you go beyond that, and the military has experimented on just tens of thousands of soldiers, because a soldier is really just government property. So
that's what they think, by the way. Like, that's not what the science fiction area does not think soldiers are government property. But right,
as far as the government's concerned, they are.
And so, I mean, yes, I mean, that adds a lot of power to that scene, because it's not just this. It's not like something like that hasn't really happened. I mean, I think that one is meant to be a direct call to the Tuskegee experiments in particular. But the man, such a good scene. I want to see more of Isaiah Bradley. I want to see that conversation go a little bit further, and I do think that maybe at some point Falcon goes back by himself.
I think so.
It probably would go better.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Isaiah I mean, obviously he's not a big fan of Bucky's to start with.
Yeah.
And then he probably doesn't really appreciate the fact that he spent 30 years in jail, and he knows for a fact that this guy was a Hydra assassin, and he's still walking around.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, like, we're not even really sure if he thinks that Bucky's not still Hydra, because, he tells him, and your people weren't done with me yet either. And that's definitely referring to Hydra.
Yeah.
So, but it is interesting, we got a little bit more of Bucky's history, and then a little more and then some of this character's history, and it's going to be interesting to see how they play that going forward. But
yeah, I love all the Bucky stuff.
Yeah, no, I love both characters, but the Bucky character is that story is really, really gets me, because he's just, he's so broken and damaged.
Yeah.
I feel like Bucky's kind of the patron saint of people who've been through some shit.
Yeah.
Dude, I am haunted at night by like cringy things I did in 3rd grade. So imagine what this dude must be feeling about like the horrible things that he did all throughout those years, and he's just trying to make up for it. And no matter how many times you tell him that it wasn't him, like, he still did it. And it sucks. And I really, Bucky in this show, Bucky has the best storyline. I'm definitely the most interested.
Well, and the thing is like, it's something about Bucky's story is so relatable to such a massive audience of, I think that even if they tried to put that, in fact, I don't think that we're meant to necessarily think that Bucky's story is the strongest side of the story here, but it's the way it comes across.
Right now, he's definitely my favorite character. I really like, we mentioned it at the top of the show, but I like that he like called out Sam, told him what he was thinking, in that therapy scene, which was great. The idea of them never seeing each other makes me very sad, which, like, when they're like, good idea, which is like, okay, so we're going to get the typical trope of they hate each other, but by the end they're brothers in arms or whatever, which, like, that's but that's fine though. I'm happy to see that, a buddy cop kind of thing.
I feel like, honestly, they kind of already have something of like a brother who really doesn't like who really don't like each other going on, because specifically when he says, you always stare like this, instead of being like, yeah, see, I told you stare too much.
Yeah.
He says, you get used to it. You know, it's like everybody else can mess with, you know, I can mess with you endlessly, but nobody else better try it. You know, I kind of feel like they have a little bit of that dimension going on.
That makes perfect. And even when they're leaving Isaiah Bradley's house, this is a great scene, and the cops show up because they're kind of arguing. He's like, "Is he bothering you?" And even though they're fighting, Bucky's like, "Do you know who you're talking to? Like, do you know who this is?
Yeah,
this is not okay that you're doing this." Even though they're in the middle of like an argument or whatever, he's not gonna let somebody disrespect Sam, especially because I think Bucky has a respect for Sam. I think Bucky's just mad that he gave up the shield.
I think they're both very bitter, and that's what I said at the beginning. I think they both have different things that they're really bitter about, and they're taking it out on each other.
What is Sam bitter about? Do you think just the pressure that was put on him by Steve?
Yes, I think that's a big part of it, that he feels like he had this weight dropped on his shoulders to be the leader. Plus, we know that, I mean, when we first meet Sam's running support groups for people coming back from war. I mean, we know Sam's got some things in his past too. I think Sam just feels like the weight of the world was dropped on him.
And he was just supposed to be happy about it. And it's not as great as it seems.
No, and on top of that, it's, you know, you get this idea from Sam that, you know, one, he's trying to take up this thing that he just for some reason feels like he's not worthy of it. And I think that's Bucky's problem, is that Bucky is looking at it and saying, Steve wouldn't have chosen you if you weren't worthy of it.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of things going on. I mean, we know what's going on with Bucky. Bucky's got a lot of demons in his past.
Yeah.
Sam is just one that was put in a position that he just doesn't feel like he was ready for.
Well, and I mean, nobody wants somebody else to tell. I mean, whenever someone says, you're the new Captain America, pretty much they are planning out the rest of your life. He's not looking like he's spent a long time trying to get to live his life on his terms. And now somebody basically, like, you know, in this grand gesture, you know, I think he feels like he's losing that autonomy, that ability to just, you know, do things his way on his terms.
Yeah.
And, you know, he got out of the military. He said, you know, he was very pleased because the number of people giving him orders was down to about 0. You know, so when he finally got out of the military, he was excited to not have people, no more expectations, no more people telling him what to do. And here you are giving me this ridiculously important symbol. And what am I supposed to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
But I think ultimately, I mean, I think they're both really bitter about losing someone they both loved.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when it boils down to it, that's what this is all about. I mean, in this comment here, you know, he tells Sam that if Steve was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. And I mean, to me, that was like the real punch in the gut of this whole episode. Because it's the one moment where Bucky is finally really honest about what's been eating at him.
Yeah. And I think it's great because he's the one who's been in therapy for a long time. So he's like the one who actually, he's been chipped away at. So he's a little bit better at the therapy thing than Sam is.
Yeah. And it's this whole thing for him. Like, Bucky never really cared. Like, once he came back, he never really cared what anybody else thought about him, except for what Steve thought about him.
Mm-hmm.
He was his lifeline in a lot of ways, I think.
So for me, that was the biggest punch in the gut of the whole episode.
I agree. Just that whole therapy scene. But my actual favorite scene that I wanted to just bring up real quick before we sign off here is the scene when they talk about the Hobbit. That was the funniest thing.
That was great.
Because you don't realize, it came out that long ago, didn't it? And he's like, how do you know about the Hobbit? He's like, I read it when it came out.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah, that whole scene was pretty fun. Aliens, androids, and wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, it's not even. I don't. Oh, yeah, there were androids. And then who'd they fight? That was aliens. Yeah. Okay. Have they fought wizards yet? Oh, I guess Loki kind of.
Well, wizards, and you've got a couple of Thanos's, or at least one of Thanos's henchmen that would probably fall in the wizard category. So
they're all aliens, and
right.
Yeah, and androids. You got Ultron, an android. But yeah, where does super soldier just fall? We're just a super powered person. Which is funny. Like, I guess it's super soldiers.
Yeah, lots of super soldiers going on.
Yeah, the abundance of super soldiers is going to make this real interesting by the end.
Yeah, which by the way, like, that was part of Zemo's like thing. Zemo was there at that facility where Hydra created all these super soldiers. Yes, he killed them, but who's to say? This is a thought I had. Who's to say he didn't like take some of that technology or data that they had collected, or I don't know, samples of their blood or whatever? And I really think he could be behind this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I
What do you
agree.
think?
I agree, Cam. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, we have. It's not that we haven't seen Steve use guns, but it was World War II.
Yeah, he was in war.
So
it's different.
Yeah.
It's not like he carries a gun for every,
Right.
And typically, if he goes after somebody with a gun, he knows for 100% sure that they are the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, in the MCU, there isn't really a thing about not killing. Like, pretty much all the superheroes kill somebody.
No, I mean, if you've got a problem with killing, Bucky Barnes is the wrong character for you.
Okay, even Sam shoots people with guns. Like,
that's true. Yeah,
and that's here's the thing. That's fine. It's not like Batman's like whole thing is that he doesn't kill. Like, if Falcon had never said that, Captain America never said that either. But through Captain America's character, he made it pretty clear that he doesn't like want to kill somebody, and he doesn't. And it was kind of the easy way out. What John did, right? Oh, just shoots him. Cap would have thrown the shield or something like that. Cap would have found a better way.
He even goes round and round with Bucky whenever he after Zurich, right? After that building blows up and he goes looking for him, he's like, quit killing people. He's all like, keeps trying to drag the people up off the stairs that he keeps throwing down. I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you there.
No, you didn't. I was done. I'm good. You're good.
Yeah.
But you're right. It does feel off.
And you're right about that, too. It does show that he's not able to take this fight. Of course, we have to imagine that had Captain America been in this fight, Captain America would have won this fight.
How about that humble brag there? Well, I'm not Dr. Banner, and I'm not Tony Stark. I don't have all the things. I'm just that great all by myself.
I just have guts.
I just have guts.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, dude, like, let somebody else, like.
No, I think that they really like, and it feels too quick. Like in an ideal world, like I'd like to have a few episodes where we're going, is this guy a good guy or not? But we've only got 6 episodes. We're almost halfway through. Like, they had to go ahead for the sake of the story and tell and give us some insight into what he's really like.
Yeah, no, I want to like him, but I think I hate him. He reminds me of every football player I ever met in high school. The line is like, well, we're the government, Captain. He's a douchebag. Yeah. He's like, they think that everyone is automatically gonna like them because they're on the football team. You know what I mean? And that scene, he's like, well, we're the government. He's like, that's like, well, a football player would be like, well, I mean, we're the football team, so.
So we've got it. But he is, Andrew was talking about this when we first watched it. Like, he is all of the things that Steve wasn't. He's the superstar athlete, and he's, super smart, and he's super agile, and he's off the charts, right? With all the things that they tested him on.
Right. Yeah.
Well, what was it? Well, it was said about the serum. I mean, obviously, we don't know if he's actually had any version of the serum yet, but
the suit seems to have
good becomes great.
Yeah. Yeah, great becomes great, and not great becomes
Yeah.
even more not great,
So-
presumably.
Yeah. No, I don't think John's the kind of guy who would do the things that Cap would do, stand up for those who need standing up to. John's the kind of guy that Cap would stand up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Cap said, "I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from," he was talking about the guys in high school who beat him up, who's an awful lot like John Walker.
Yeah. So I think that's enough. I mean, we could go on about this for a while, but I think that covers the episode pretty well. I really love this episode. I really love where they're going. They're building a really interesting world here, delving into some very new areas of what's going on in the world for us to have an opportunity to take a look at. And I'm outside of this show, I'm really hoping that maybe we get to see a lot more of what has happened to the rest of the world. And
Yeah.
I will hold out some hope that there's a show coming that will show us that time a little bit
Spider-Man
better.
would have been a great catalyst for that, but now it's like,
Yeah.
multiverse and cosmic and everything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right.
something like Miss Marvel or Moon Knight or She-Hulk, I think might be able to do that.
That's
Yeah.
true. We've got stuff coming down the pipe. Lots of stuff.
Yep.
So
Well, anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we done covered it all. I mean, I could go on and on, like you said. I could I could make lots of witty jokes about John Walker, but I'll spare you from that.
yeah. I appreciated that at the end, after that terrible therapy session, after they're like, it did not go well, and they get out, but once they walk out the door, they're going as united front. Like, even with all the issues that they've got with each other, it's not like, well, I'll go fight with you, Mr. America, sir, and you go off and do your own thing. Like, they're going it together.
Yeah, and I think that that's where this is headed. I mean, we're obviously doing the buddy cop trope, but I think the truth is that these two characters need each other, and they haven't been willing to admit it yet. Or maybe you could say they're Frodo and Sam, but they haven't realized it yet.
Yeah.
Merry and Pippin, maybe a little more like.
More like Legolas and Gimli.
Yes,
Yeah.
Legolas
Yeah.
and Gimli. That's even better. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be real interesting to see where they go with this. But that line about, we're going to finish this and we'll never have to see each other again. Yeah, that's not where this is headed.
Yeah. But the idea of that really is so sad.
Yeah.
It really is, the idea of that. But we know that they're headed towards, these characters are going to be pretty linked for the rest of their time in the MCU.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to see them go ahead and get that shield stolen so we can go back to Louisiana and watch them throw it around.
Yeah, we know he gets it at some point. So
I know. I do.
That might have
I
just
hate
been
that a little
promotional.
It could have been promotional. It could be from the very end of the season. We'll just have to wait and see. But let's go ahead and sign off for the night. And Marisha, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm princesses _ and _ Padawans. And I am P Padawans on Twitter.
All right, David.
You guys can find my orange face on David _ JG Peoples on Twitter. Please go on Twitter and link me some light bulbs that you suggest I purchase.
All right, you can find me running the Twitter account for this show at @Fictionary. You can find our other show, Coruscant Radio Underground, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Drop us a line at thesciencefictionary@gmail.com. And as always, go check out the rest of the Red 5 podcast family over at red5network.com or at Red5Network on Twitter. And until next time, may the Force be with you.